on the Talkback Show, on the radio, or whatever audiovisual device you choose to use. Welcome to the GBC podcast, where we talk about the Packers in our hometown of Green Bay. This is episode 4, created on January 26, 2022. I'm John. I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin. Along with me, Jeff in Minnesota, and Neil. I thought he was ice fishing, but I think you're somewhere in Green Bay right now. Say hello, gentlemen, and tell us what you're drinking.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm having a 15-year-old Scotch.
Hello, I was at the Stillmank Brewery earlier today, and so I'm having a Fluffy Unicorn IPA as doing a podcast from my parents' basement.
I squeezed some fresh lime, so I have a Gin Lime Ricky today. All right, you can find us on YouTube and Twitter at Green Bay Chat and Facebook at the GBC Podcast Green Bay Chat. Taking a look at our topics, pretty simple this week. It's that game against the San Francisco 49ers, and we're going to probably go through all 5 stages of the Kubler-Ross grief cycle here in the podcast. We'll look at our divisional round wrap-up and the picks that we had. We've got Championship Sunday predictions for the 2 games there. And oh my God, Neil, what the fuck happened?
I just don't know. I mean, this is like we came in. I drove in from the East Coast, and this is going to be our year, right? It's this last dance thing from Rodgers and from Adams, and man, our team looked like it. We're getting all of these players back. Game starts at 7:15. I was out tailgating at 2:45, and I was certainly not the only person that was out there early. It was a festive atmosphere out in the parking lots. You go to the stadium view, you go everywhere. You go over to lot 1. Everyone is having a good time. Everyone is ready for a great game of football. We're looking for the Packers to be the Packers, to make that one magical last run under Aaron Rodgers. We get into the stadium, the flag, the national anthem goes. We lose the toss, we get the ball first. And a lot of Packers fans saying, excellent, we want the ball. We're going to go and we're going to score. And sure enough, we get the ball. We drive all the way down the field. Quadzilla scores a touchdown. We kick the extra point. We're up 7-0. It's like, yes, the crowd was incredible. We get we kick the kickoff to San Francisco. They get the ball. Zadarius Smith has a sack. They have to kick it back to us. And so the crowd is going crazy on defense. This was the best crowd throughout the game that I've ever heard at Lambeau Field as far as being loud on defense. We get the ball back. We start moving the ball. We throw to Mercedes Lewis. Mercedes Lewis fumbles. And that's where everything turned. And we didn't know that that was the high point of the game. We were in suspended animation for the rest of the day. But, that's where it all turned.
It was the most perfect 6 minutes of football you could imagine. And
it wasn't.
What happened in the other 54 minutes, Jeff? Where did you see it go wrong?
I once they scored that easily, I thought 2 things. Remember last week we talked about, and we had been witness to, when the Packers took a 14-0 lead, right? Early on against San Francisco, and they won the damn thing, right? So I'm thinking, okay, 7-0, that was pretty easy. Now, historically, when there's been a quick score like that, one of 2 things usually happens. That's it, or it's a complete rout. And I was really hoping for the latter, but as it turned out, it was the former. Now, I personally feel I'm wearing black tonight. Didn't break out the really, really good beverages in celebration. So I'm not definitely in the acceptance stage, not to get too far ahead here, but, I was pretty pissed off. Granted, it's just a game. I get it. But it's just like, what the hell? Why did this happen? So I started to, analyze a little bit, like, okay, was there any one thing, right? I mean, we look back last year, there was a couple really glaring things. It just seemed like, and I don't, if this is a systemic piece, or it's like, did they want it enough? And that's a terrible thing to have to question. I'm not necessarily questioning, did they want it enough, but was it, I don't understand how, with such, adjustments were obviously made by San Francisco, really, really good ones, apparently. But why, the asshats, that's a whole other topic as well. The asshat breakdown, right? But I mean, okay, even still, this should have been, in theory, I know it's not, it's not a walkover, but I mean, come on. Why? How could this, you go from you couldn't have asked for a colder night, for a more tuned up crowd. I mean, look what the Bills did to, at least the prior week, at home, right? So even what they did versus Kansas City. But the point is that, okay, this is a team that wants to play, that really is prepared, that finds a way to score and to win or to almost win, right? Whereas it's almost like the Packers like figured out a way to fucking lose again, right? So it's like, why is it? Because LaFleur's not a losing coach. He's not that kind of guy. It's the team isn't like that. But how do they manage to grasp defeat from the jaws of victory?
For me, anger started with the block punt. When the block punt happened and they scored the touchdown, I was in anger. And then we give up the ball. We're at about the 2-minute warning, and San Francisco's getting the ball back, and that's denial there. And you see them marching down the field and the 2 passes to George Kittle, and that's when the bargaining began. Please don't let this happen. Please don't let this happen. And they line up for the field goal. And I'm pretty sure that as soon as the ball came off Robbie Gould's foot, that was depression. Depression lasted the full 3 seconds of the ball flying through the air, went through the uprights. And I had nothing that I could do at the moment but accept what happened. And Steve was sitting next to me, and we just stood there. We actually had 2 guys next to us that came, they're local guys, got tickets just before the game. They came specifically to see the Packers lose, and they got there. One's a Bears fan, one was a Steelers fan. So we chided them a bit and wished them well and safety on their way out of the stadium and making their way back home. But yeah, I think I had a little bit of acceptance throughout the weekend, and maybe it was my birthday bliss on Monday. But I've definitely gone back to anger. And in the words of Dr. Banner in one of those Marvel movies, he said, "That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry."
Related to this, I mean, the problem is it goes into the history of all of the dumb fucking shit that we've done in playoff games and in pissing away 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. And I can't tell you how many times I said stupid Mike Sherman over the course of the last, what are we up to now, 5 days.
This loss was so awful that every part of the game failed to the point where I reflexively said, "Fucking Mike McCarthy."
Or Sherman or both.
I said both. I've said both at least 20 times out loud in the time since. I mean, this just is I mean, in the end, when it happened, there was a level of acceptance because like we've seen us do this before. And I think that's what probably hurt the most is the fact that we've seen our team be the better team, or at least the objectively better team going in, the one that everyone is picking. And we just went out and laid an egg, just completely laid an egg. And I just don't, I mean, there was a component. I don't know how angry I got. I've said a lot of profanity, certainly, but in the end, it's just like, this just has been what's happening. And it's driving me freaking nuts.
You went through all 7 of Carlin's dirty words and then some, correct?
Well, I mean, you almost get to a point where how can I put this without sounding like an asshole? The team has done very good at, they've won a lot of games. They have. I mean, they've been very successful. So, right. I mean, we're kind of like, okay, there's a whole bunch of other franchises where if any of their fans are watching this, they'd be like, okay, you're a dick. Okay. You're winning these games. Yes, I get that. I understand. But there's an expectation, or there should be an expectation. And if you're not the better team on the field and you lose, okay, that's kind of how it works. Like Pittsburgh, for example, that wild card weekend, right? I mean, it was like, okay, they're not going to go anywhere. Okay. I mean, yes, they kind of got their ass handed to them. This was no big surprise. No, this was closer. I'm not, saying San Francisco was not as, prepared or whatever or was in the same level as Pittsburgh. But I mean, there's still, so did they want it more? Is it just bad luck? Is it, a combination of things? I mean, you can't make this shit up. It's snowing at Lambeau. I mean, what more, the NFL must have been just like, we couldn't
It was so beautiful in the second half.
Yeah.
It's just like, we're going to pull this game out, even though, it was close. We kept it closer, but I had the expectation that we were going to pull this game out in the end because of the magic of the snow and Lambeau.
Right. And there's no reason why to expect anything different, because the vast majority of the time see not a championship football game or a playoff game. It does happen. Right. Ironically, right. Why is that? I don't know. Now, it's interesting. Speaking of like Saturday night NFL, I saw a stat. I don't remember the exact. It was like 36, 38, 34 million watched Saturday night on Fox, which set a record. The last time that many people watched a TV show on Saturday night was 1994, the Lillehammer, or not Lillehammer. Yeah. The Olympics. Yeah. So it's just like, obviously people were interested. This is what the NFL wanted. Everything, the table was set, and then they go out and take a great big dump.
The thing about this game, though, is the defense did everything it needed to do. The Packer defense
gave up 3 points. Yeah.
The San Francisco 49er offense did not score a touchdown. The defense held the Niners offense to 6 points, 2 field goals. You've got a sack from Zadarius Smith, Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark. You've got an interception by Adrian Amos. The defense did everything right. You cannot fault the defense. You can say, oh, but the defense didn't stop them at the last 2 minutes.
They also didn't give up the damn touchdown either.
They didn't give a touchdown up. The defense was spectacular.
Because it was 10-6.
It was a night it was beautiful. It was a night made for defense, and the defense did everything it needed to do. I just cannot say anything wrong about it. Now, the special teams, the assets are going to, and that's something that, it's not that the guys on this team are bad at playing special teams. It's just that this team, and it's been like this for how long now, has not prioritize special teams. It's not, it's like, okay, let's just pick 9 guys to run out there that are, the 9 bottom guys on the roster. Yes, we have a specialist at long snapper, you have a specialist punter, you have a specialist kicker, you got your holder. Those other 8 or 9 guys are just the guys that are, maybe they're the fastest guys on the field because we want them to get down into some type of coverage. They may not be the best hacklers. They may not,
certainly
be the best
not
decision makers. They're certainly not the best blockers. And that's something that is a franchise problem. And it has been a problem for years. And it's something that we knew this season. I was like, please don't let them mess it up for us. And that really, between getting a field goal blocked,
it wasn't a matter of if, it was when, right? We all said,
yeah.
I mean, John, you brought up something interesting about the prioritization. And that's one thing I remember from the early Mike Holmgren areas. They said the first thing that they did every practice, they did special teams first. That was how they started practice. And I remember just being stunned by the fact that you'd start your entire practice with special teams, but that's what they did at least at the beginning of the Mike Holmgren era. And I think that says all the difference as far as the prioritization is concerned.
And as we talked about, special teams made major differences in those games in the 90s too. Oh, by the way.
We talked about it. I mean, Desmond Howard, you look at what the greatness of the special teams did for us in the past compared to where it has been easily the last 10 years has been atrocious. What was the one year we had no positive yards in punt returns until the last 2 weeks of the season? We just can't even seem to get out of our own way on this. But it certainly is something that has to be internal. It has to be something from a club perspective of prioritizing. What are they doing about it? People want to fire the special teams coordinator. Okay, so that's 4 that we're going to have gone through now in the past, how many years?
4 or 5, not long.
Yeah. Who is out there that is a special teams genius that's going to come to this team that's going to do something when the team doesn't prioritize it?
But do we really even need a genius? I mean, I don't understand, hiring internally when the team was almost as bad last year, but we just need somebody who is actually focused enough on the fundamentals. And yes, obviously the team has got to actually practice it at a sufficient level that they're going to do well on it. I want to go back to the defense because I don't think we gave them enough credit. I don't think we talked enough about how well they did. And, they even with the special, they allowed 6, but even, take the ass hats and allowing the blocked punt, right? There's still only 13 points that were allowed. Rodgers prior to this game was 41-0 when the Packers allowed 14 or fewer points. The Packers allow 14 or fewer points. The Packers are going to win, right? That is the entire history, a perfect record when we allow 14 or fewer points. And the defense did its job. It did its job in different areas. And you can, again, argue about, did we get everything that we wanted to from the players that were coming back? But we had 4 sacks. They didn't move the ball very well. We had the Amos interception was incredible. I mean, I thought the game was going to be turned when the Amos, it's like, we sort of switched our quarter in which we screwed up. We instead of starting slow in the first quarter, we started hot in the first quarter, and we're going to do our first quarter slowness in the second quarter. Amos gets the interception. It's like, okay, well, we've got this. We're going to turn this around. And you have the Aaron Jones, the past Aaron Jones that was wide open. And it's like, oh, we definitely have this. This is the game turning around. And, the assets played their role there. But I mean, the defense did everything that it needed to do. We could not ask anything more from the defense in that game.
Yeah, I mean, even you go to the fourth quarter, another couple first downs, the game's over. I just giving the ball back to San Francisco. But again, that was one of these, okay, here's kind of this same script again. So, I mean, does that get into the player's head? Do they think, oh shit, here we go again? I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but I mean, it almost seems like that
But I mean, most of these players weren't around. You go back to the Seattle game or even the Atlanta game. I mean, most of these players weren't around then. We signed players. We made the team better since then. And somehow there's this muscle memory. And I guess the problem is that there's one muscle that keeps recurring. And we'll talk more in depth about that one. But I don't know.
We are in the bargaining stage still because we're telling our story. We're sharing our grief with each other.
Thank you,
but
Doctor.
Let's circle back. Let's come back to the game because there's a lot to say about it. Let's look at the rest of the weekend. We made our picks last weekend, and we didn't do as well in the divisional round as we did in the wild card.
Wow,
weekend.
Thanks you, Captain Obvious.
So Neil and Jeff, you guys did all right. You got one game right in 3 rounds. I took the collar and I went 0 for 4. There was a point actually when we were making the picks because each you guys went rogue on. Neil, you took the Chiefs. Jeff, you took the Rams. I said, maybe to balance out, I should take the Bengals. I almost switched my pick to the Bengals, but you know what? 1-3 and 0-4 still isn't going to get me any money at the sport book anyway, so it doesn't matter.
You're doing about as well as the Packers. So,
but the Bengals with their win. And now here's the other thing about all 4 games. You talked, Jeff, about what the NFL wants or what they want for TV. All 4 games had a field goal at the end of regulation to determine the outcome. 3 of them in a victory, one of them at the end of regulation puts it to overtime. Yeah. So all 4 games with a field goal.
Yeah. Incredible.
As the clock is hitting 0.
I might add,
unreal is that?
4 successful assets.
Right. Yes. And they didn't miss. They didn't miss. So here's a stat that I saw, speaking of Cincinnati. So there are 2 NFL teams in the Super Bowl era that have never lost a championship game. Who are they?
Well, I'll guess Cincinnati is one of them.
You are correct, sir. They're 2-0.
The New York Jets?
Wrong team, right city.
Oh, New York Giants.
They're 5-0.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
So I tell you that, like I said, it was entertaining. Obviously, the games were super fun to watch. I didn't have any money riding on it, so I didn't really care for the other 3 who won, obviously. But, they were entertaining. And, maybe a topic for next or for, in the future, too, is overtime.
Oh,
that was,
let's,
wow. That was.
I don't even want to discuss it because I'm annoyed by that. But Jeff, you're the only one of us who actually watched the Cincinnati Tennessee game because John and I were out tailgating. Give your thoughts on the Tennessee Cincinnati.
I just want to point out the tailgate party has never lost. The tailgate party is undefeated.
Yeah,
we had a great time on Saturday, and we will have a great time again next year for all the home games. The tailgate party is undefeated.
That's part of the bargaining, right? Is that, we just assumed, I'm back in Wisconsin because I assumed, well, we're going to play the divisional game. We'll play in the championship game. And I'm just staying in Wisconsin the whole week in between. And I thought that, today would be planning for Sunday's tailgate. So,
Why wouldn't you? Yeah.
We still can. Sure, let's go tailgate. No, what the hell? It'll be a nice day on Sunday. Trust me.
Yeah.
Any rate, about
But-
Cincinnati, Tennessee.
So this was one, honestly, where it was Tennessee. There was things again that were, for as good as Cincinnati were, and they were, oh my God, Burrow. I mean, he was sacked 9 times. They had no business kind of winning this game, but he was phenomenal. I mean, he kind of had this, and again, I don't want to get too esoteric here, but it was almost like his mindset, okay, fine, sack me. I'm still going to throw for, whatever. And as long as I'm upright, I'm still going to, try and win this game. And, the almost all the games last weekend had one of those holy shit moments as well, which is, as a fan is great. As if it happens to your team, it's freaking awful. But the interception, I mean, Tennessee is driving down the field and the carom, and oh my God, it's an interception. And it's like, holy shit. And then, but still it was at midfield, right? I mean, the game is not over, and there was 20 seconds or whatever the hell it was. So again, it was one of these situations where it was just like Burrow steps in. It's like he's been there before. They go 20 yards or whatever, or not far, but far enough to get in the field goal range. Game over. So is similar to the Packer vibe in that, okay, where in this case Tennessee was driving down trying to win, not basically hanging on, but still it was just a weird carom of the ball, and it just suddenly the script flips, but Burrow, man, ooh, wow. So this game, so we'll talk about the game, but I think it's going to be a heck of an AFC championship game.
Let's just jump right in. We've got Championship Sunday to take a look at. There's 2 games. It's pretty simple to make our predictions. The first game, the AFC game, is at 2 p.m. The Bengals at the Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 7 points there. And then Sunday at 5:30 p.m., the Los Angeles Rams come to Green Bay, playing at Lambeau Field.
Or not.
Or am I still in denial on that one?
Solid denial there, John. Solid denial. Well done.
Denial.
Well done.
Damn it. 5:30 Sunday evening, 49ers at the Rams. Let's take them in order. So Bengals at the Chiefs. Now the Chiefs, they have the 2 seed. And this is something that's interesting. With the 2 seed, they end up having 3 postseason home games. Green Bay Packers and the Tennessee Titans had the 1 seed. Yes, it's nice they had the bye. They each end up with only 1 postseason home game. Now, I know the Packers without an owner, but there are 30 owners out there that are looking at Kansas City and saying, hey, wait a minute. They got 3 postseason home games. If we're talking about what's rewarding to the number 1 seed, what's more rewarding to the number 1 seed? Getting that week off where you talk about rust and all that other horse shit that can affect you going into the game when it comes around, or getting at least 2, if not 3, postseason home games. Trust me, that is something that there are owners, all the owners in the league are going to look at that and say, let's go to 8 teams in the postseason. And then you've got the 1 seed and the 2 seed. They're each going to get 1, maybe 2 postseason home games, and one of them can possibly get 3 postseason home games. I mean, Neil, how much money do you think was spent in Green Bay on Saturday, not just Saturday, but the whole weekend? And now imagine if we could do that again this weekend. The influx of that postseason home game is so much greater than any regular season game. East side and west side of town. And not just Green Bay, but it's going to spill out, because people get around, and it hits Howard, it hits Ashwaubenon, it hits De Pere. Hell, it even hits the Valley.
Sure.
There's people flying. In fact, the guys we were talking to at the Lorelei, he got the text message from his brother. His brother landed at Appleton. So yeah, I mean, you're going to probably stop for something in the Valley on your way in or your way out. So yeah, there's a whole chunk of Northeast Wisconsin. So now again, take that concept. And trust me, eight teams in the playoffs is inevitable. Nobody gets the bye because of that potential that 1 team is going to get 3 home games. in the postseason. That's a lot of money.
I mean, just go at the simpler level. There are 2 extra playoff games in the playoffs, right? I mean, 2 extra games that, you saw what those ratings were for basically all of the games had these incredible ratings. And, you can't give up 2 extra playoff games independent of whether the owners want it for their, civically for their own town or for their own pockets from the revenues from the game.
Yeah, the TV money would be great. You're right. And then go back to that wild card weekend where there's 6 games. If you put 8 games on there, now I'd like to see it be a 4-4 schedule of some sort rather than would they do a 2-3-1 or the Monday? I didn't care for the Monday night playoff game, but I'm sure that'll happen because if you can dominate 3 nights over the course of 2 calendar weeks in the Nielsen ratings, hey, that's great. That's, and then
right,
you're dominating.
Win.
Yep, you're dominating it. That's why the Super Bowl has gotten moved back into February.
Yeah,
you can dominate February in the ratings, and for the most part, March is the only doldrum month because then the draft, consumes April.
And you
NFL,
got the NCAA tournament in March.
Right. They don't want to compete with March Madness, right?
Yeah.
But the NFL certainly, for a cycle that is 7 months total, the way it dominates the TV market, the TV money is incredible. And again, each community that can benefit from those postseason home games, that's something that's going to happen. So I digress. Let's go back to our picks. So the Chiefs with that 2 seed, they're favored by 7. They're the early game. The Bengals, the upstart Bengals, we saw them play in Cincinnati, and they were a Jekyll and Hyde team for a lot of this season, but they ended up winning their division, and they have had a couple of great games under their belt now with the Raiders and the Titans, and they're going to go to Kansas City. But Kansas City, you talk about Green Bay being electric. Boy, could you feel what Kansas City was like watching that Buffalo game? Neil, who do you like in this one?
So fundamentally, this becomes Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes. And I can't pick against Patrick Mahomes in this situation. Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times and he's not facing Ryan Tannehill this week. He's facing Patrick Mahomes. I don't see really a lot of a way for Kansas City to lose other than if there's injuries or something along those lines. Patrick Mahomes is so good. And let's just go. We haven't mentioned the Kansas City Buffalo game. This is the greatest, regular playoff game, certainly that I've ever seen. Back and forth, what 26 points in less than 2 minutes, plus another 6 in overtime. I mean, you just, that was unbelievable. And anyone who watched it, was just mesmerized. I mean, I said that we should just instead cancel the NFC and AFC championship games in the Super Bowl and just make Buffalo versus Kansas City a best of 3 and be done with it there, because those were clearly the 2 most interesting teams. They were the best teams. They're the most fun to watch. I think that Buffalo, if they played in the NFC, they'd win the NFC championship game. Kansas City for me. I want to say one other thing about Kansas City though, which is Andy Reid. And Andy Reid is somebody that obviously we as Packers fans know. And with Andy Reid making the AFC championship game this year, he has now taken 2 separate teams to the conference championship game 4 years in a row. He took the Eagles from 2001 to 2004, and this is now 4 straight years for Kansas City. That is a remarkable legacy. And, you compare it, for example, to our coaching and, what does it take to be as consistent as that to make twice separately to take a team to a conference championship 4 years in a row? That's a coaching edge that I think Kansas City has, and it's going to be difficult to overcome the talent gap combined with the coaching gap.
Quick side note on that. And yeah, great accolade for Andy Reid. The funny thing is the detractors who will say, yeah, but how many Super Bowls has he won? Same thing where people who talk about, but Green Bay's only won 2 Super Bowls in the last 30 years. Look, the Super Bowl is not easy to win. It's that simple. If the Super Bowl were easy to win, everybody would be doing it. It is a hard game to win. But Andy Reid, the other thing, Neil, on that, the 4-4, Kansas City is 4 years in a row at home, hosting 4 years in a row.
That's never been done before.
Time. Right.
Yep.
Jeff, who do you like?
Pretty for the same reasons Neil said. I think last week there was somebody on this medium that said the team with the ball last was going to win that game. I don't know.
You said that about several games, to be fair, Jeff.
We'll give you that one. Even though you picked the Bills to win, we'll give you that one.
Yeah, exactly. I'll try not to sprint an elbow patting myself on the back here. No, like I said, I think just from the experience, I mean, it would not shock me if Cincinnati found a way to win, honestly. But I think, like I said, fundamentally, it's just the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs defense makes the difference as well. I think Cincinnati, I, yeah, Chiefs.
A long time ago on Late Night with David Letterman, when the 49ers and the Bengals, this is how long ago this was. And I don't know why this has ever stuck in my brain, but it's Super Bowl week between the 49ers and the Bengals. And Dave gets prompted to make a pick who he wants to win for the Super Bowl. And he struggles with this because if he picks San Francisco, he's going to alienate his Cincinnati market. And picking Cincinnati, he's going to alienate his San Francisco market. And he looked at the point spread and he said, let's go Cincinnati, don't lose by more than 7. And that's how I'm looking at this one as well. I think Cincinnati can cover, but I don't think they're going to win. I think it'll be a good game. I think Cincinnati will play well. So yes, Cincinnati, just don't lose by more than 7. And I will take the Chiefs on that one as well. So we got 3 of us in the boat for the Kansas City Chiefs. Going to the 5:30 game, the NFC matchup between the number 6 seed San Francisco 49ers heading to Los Angeles to face the Rams at SoFi Stadium. Now this stadium not only gets the NFC Championship game, but in 2 weeks gets the Super Bowl. The Rams with the 4 seed. It's the NFC West. These teams know each other really well. The Rams with the home field, they're getting that 3.5 point spread on this one. Jeff, I'll let you pick this one up. What do you like there?
I think it's going to be 2 years in a row of home Super Bowls. Going with the Rams.
For me, you look at the quarterbacks, it's Matthew Stafford versus Jimmy Garoppolo. And if you just stopped at Matthew Stafford, you'd say, well, it's not going to be Matthew Stafford. Now, he's certainly shown us something the last 2 weeks, but even so, prior to this, the game against Tampa Bay, he was 0-53 when his defense allowed 24 points against a winning team. 0-53. He is now 1-53. I think that there's certainly a lot of things that San Francisco can do well, but they still have Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. And in this case, Matthew Stafford is a huge advantage at the quarterback. I am choosing the Rams.
I'm going to go with the Rams as well to take that one. Like I said, Jeff, another team with home field advantage in the Super Bowl. Interesting thing about that, though, is the NFC is the visiting team this year. And it'll be interesting to see if the NFL makes them, if the Rams get in, if the NFL makes them take the visiting team locker room, or if they get to have their own regular locker room. I don't know what the locker room setup is at SoFi, but
I'm guessing it doesn't suck.
Yeah, right. I'm sure both are very good. Now let's go hypothetically, Neil, going back to Saturday night's game. Let's say Green Bay wins. From the moment Green Bay wins that game, how much do we talk about the Rodgers Brady rematch? How much do we talk about let's get Brady back into Green Bay because we really want to take care of this? Right?
I think that we were happy in either case, but there's no doubt that we lost. I mean, we lost at home in the NFC Championship, and that was Aaron Rodgers' first home game in an NFC Championship was last year. And of course, there were 8,000 fans. It wasn't a real home field. And so getting Brady a year older, getting Brady in front of 80,000 fans versus 8,000 fans, beating Brady just because it's always good to beat Brady. There would have been extra enjoyment in taking out Tom Brady in the Bucs.
So now take that a step further. Let's say Green Bay wins the game against San Francisco. Jeff, we spend the better part of the next 24 hours really excited that Tom Brady is going to come back to Green Bay and the Buccaneers are going to come back to Green Bay. And then holy cow, the Rams win that game. Now, Neil, Matthew Stafford, how do you look at this game if it's the Los Angeles Rams coming to Green Bay on the last Sunday in January?
I look at it that I'm terrified of Cooper Kupp. And I think, he is the person that, has made Matthew Stafford, not the Detroit version of Matthew Stafford, but now this new Los Angeles Rams version of Matthew Stafford. And obviously there's a lot of other things. Sean McVay has an incredible scheme. He knows how to work his players. They've got a deep receiving core. But Matthew Stafford is not the player that we like to enjoy beating in the past.
I think though what happens is that we've talked about this, the pros and cons, is it weather, is it not weather? this Sunday in Green Bay is not going to be as cold as it was last weekend, but still 20s, teens, 20s.
Yeah.
Again, I think that levels the playing field. That makes Matthew Stafford more, normal. That takes away some of his receiving core, certainly the speed on the field. And last year Packers beat him pretty handily. I mean, it was not. Yeah, it wasn't simple, obviously, but I mean, it was like, okay, yeah, that's a solid win. It wasn't one of these, oh my God, or they, it was back and forth or whatever. It was pretty solid, and really same thing earlier, this year when the Packers again beat the Rams. So, again, how many times can you beat a team, things like that. But I think, it would have set up really well for Green Bay, because the Rams do want to go home for the Super Bowl. I mean, that's another one of these, never been done before. Well, until last year. Now, if it's 2 years in a row, but I just think that it would have been a better matchup, and one that would have favored us to go back to the Super Bowl. But then a Green Bay, Kansas City Super Bowl. Ooh, so that's not going to happen.
So that concludes the depression part of the segment. So let me go to acceptance here. If you had told in 1986, if you had told 16-year-old me, John, you guys are on the verge, you're this team that you've grown up with, this team that you love, you are on the verge of 30 years of winning. 30 years of winning with 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, a Hall of Fame coach, a Hall of Fame general manager, but you're only going to win 2 Super Bowls. Will you accept that? And I would have said, hell yes. And that is exactly what we got for the last 30 years. I will not be upset at all about the last 30 years of Green Bay Packer football. It has been great. I have enjoyed it immensely, and I look forward to enjoying it again. I go back to the start of the 2019 season when Matt LaFleur came in, and we thought that the Packers were on the decline. We thought rebuilding team with a new coach. We got a 13-win season. And I can tell you right now, the first half of that year anyway, at the tailgate parties and at the games, it was like, how are we going to do? How are we going to do? Or, oh my gosh, is this real? And it just kept building. And it was just something great about being a Packer fan in that season. And it's just, I'm not going to, let anything like this take it away from me. So I've accepted our fate. I look forward to continuing to be a Packer fan. How do you guys want to wrap up this one?
Wrapping up. We haven't even talked about Rodgers yet.
Oh my God!
I'm still at the anger. I'm still at the anger level. So,
Aaron Rodgers. Everybody wants to talk about what's Aaron Rodgers going to do. Aaron Rodgers can only do 2 things. He can retire or he can report to camp. Those are his choices.
But I don't even want to talk about that. I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers in the game, in the actual game. I mean, that's the part that to me is the most depressing. You go to the, what stage are you in, the depression? It's like, I mean, I think, for me, Rodgers, I'm fine either way, whatever Gutekunst decides to do. And it's fundamentally because Aaron Rodgers had everything going for him this year. And yet with the defense that performed at the level that it needed to, special teams were asshats, but they didn't kill us. They didn't kill us to the extent that we should have lost the game. We scored 3 points after the first drive. Aaron Rodgers is sacked 5 times. Aaron Rodgers in the second half was only 8 of 13 for 55 yards. In the fourth quarter, he was 4 of 7 or 3 of 7 for 17 yards, 55 yards in the second half. And, the problem I think that we have as Packers fans is that this is not unusual to see Aaron Rodgers shit the bed in a playoffs game. And, we've seen it happen too many times that, and it's not just, Aaron Rodgers, it's the offensive line as well. Aaron Rodgers in 2011 against the Giants was sacked 4 times. In 2013 against San Francisco was sacked 4 times. Tampa Bay last year was sacked 5 times, 5 times on Saturday. It's not that, Aaron Rodgers is the only person who's failing at this, but obviously as the person at the head, he's the one that we've got to pay attention to. And, the fact that if we look at the last 2 losing playoff games in the fourth quarter, Aaron Rodgers had 4 3-and-outs, 4 3-and-outs in the fourth quarter of the last 2 losing playoff games. And in those 4 3-and-outs, he's 2 of 8 for 9 yards and 3 sacks. And
this is the presumptive MVP of this season again.
Presumptive MVP who's got tunnel vision. He threw 9 times to Aaron Jones, 9 times to Devontae Adams, 1 time to Lazard, 1 time infamously to Lewis, no times to anyone else. GM Rodgers acquired Randall Cobb and did not have any use for Randall Cobb in the divisional playoff game. It's just that I think that's where the real frustration is just seeing this happen again, and it happens in different ways. But you know, we can go through the litany of statistics, and fundamentally, when the game matters, too often he's been the person who hasn't shown up. And, you know, yes, he is all world. Yes, we wouldn't be anywhere near these positions without him. And yes, he's had some incredible playoff games in our wins, but in the losses, it's been going out meekly, and especially the last two years where in the fourth quarter, he has done absolutely jack shit.
You've been saving those stats this whole time.
I rewatched the game on Sunday because I was so pissed off, right? And I'm just sort of going through and I'm looking at his numbers as the game's going on. It's like, it can't possibly be that he only is getting, getting 17 yards in the fourth quarter. That just seems impossible.
That was some hard 3 hours of denial, Neil.
Neil, as you're one of your famous quotes. So you spent 3 hours punching yourself in the nuts Saturday or Sunday rewatching that game, didn't you?
I did, and then I've spent a few more hours punching myself in the nuts, going through those numbers again and again in my head. It's just wow. It's inconceivable to me how he can be so all worldly so much of the time, and then yet in so many situations where it matters, he disappears.
Yep. That's kind of what I was alluding. You stated a little more eloquently than I did earlier, I think. But no, agree. It's just like, how does this happen? How is it, what, I mean, it's not a switch. It's not but I mean, what, is that desire? Is that, bad luck? Is it, what, I don't know, whatever. We'll never know. I mean, that's the, $100 million question at this point.
How do you get a chip on Aaron's shoulders in the playoffs? I mean, that's really what it is, because if there's a chip on his shoulders, he's going to be awesome.
Watch out.
And somehow he loses that chip on his shoulders. Maybe it's just in cold weather games in the playoffs, but he's done it in warm as well. And I don't know.
So any speculation on Rodgers' future, any fantasies that we have, we can save that for the offseason. We don't need to jerk each other off with what we think is going to happen to Aaron Rodgers or what we'd like to get in phrase. That's a different story. Look, we skipped the Packers of the past. We skipped the Packers history. We're going to save that for a future episode. We'll come back to those, but we're going to wrap up here. We want to thank our people that have been paying attention to the show, the podcast. We got a couple of compliments on Saturday, Neil, people who are liking us. We have some subscribers to YouTube. You can go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Neil, we have to make a note though. We should both tell our moms not to listen to this week's show. They can take the week off because both of our moms are named Barb, and neither of them like our potty mouths on the show. But we're 3 guys having fun, and hopefully everybody's having fun listening to us. As our friend Jim pointed out, ever since we started this podcast, the Packers haven't won a fucking game, so that's a different thing that we have to worry about as well.
Oh my God, it's us!
It's us. So before we head out of here, Jeff, Neil, what do you guys got? Jeff?
I wish the season wasn't over at this point. I wish I was looking forward to going back to the GBC this weekend and seeing you guys in person and doing some tailgating and watching the NFC Championship game with the Packers as participants. Obviously, that's not going to happen. So I'm still going to watch the games this weekend. Hopefully some competitive games, and we'll have more to talk about next week. Looking forward to it.
I think about the disappointments of the game, and fundamentally what we talked about last week is our X factor was the number of players coming back. And clearly none of the players who came back had a game that could be considered a star game or something where they really stood out. Zadarius Smith had that 1 sack early, but he graded as one of the worst defensive players in the game. And fundamentally, this is really where I'm at. I'm hoping next year we've got a team, we play well throughout the year, and we're not depending on random things happening in the playoffs, but we're going to be a continuation of what we've done all year. And that's really what the entire offseason is about. And so for us, the offseason's begun. So let's move.
Anger, denial, bargaining, depression, acceptance wherever you are at this time. We've got something for you in today's show. We hope you were able to drown your sorrows with us in our beverages. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Again, you can get information on the GBC podcast at Green Bay Chat on Twitter, and we're on Facebook at the GBC podcast Green Bay Chat. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, and may you fully appreciate the magnitude of your impending good fortune. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.
All right.